Hey, this is Jamey with Stonemaier Games, and today I'm going to talk about my favorite mechanism or mechanisms in The King is Dead 2nd Edition, which I played for the first time very recently. A friend of mine, a fellow coworker, Joe, loves The King of Siam, which is the previous version of this game, which was preceded by The King is Dead original edition, but this is the second edition, and we played this, and I just thought it was really, really clever, really brilliant. There are a couple mechanisms that I want to highlight here. One is, so the core concept of the game is that you have 8 cards, and you are trying to vie for control at key moments of various territories on this board. And you're not really the one controlling it. You're kind of trying to have the most influence over the third-party faction that has control of that territory at different moments throughout the game. And those moments are defined by 8 rounds. So you can see these cards on the side of the board here. Those are the 8 different territories on the board. In round 1, you are vying for this territory. You're looking at this territory at least, looking at who has control of that territory. And at that given time, when you finish that round, who has the most influence of the winning faction in that territory. Hopefully that's a decent explanation of how it works. But I'm explaining that because one of the key mechanisms in the game, a really cool mechanism, is passing. On my turn, I can play one of these cards, one of my 8 cards, or I can simply pass. And I would typically pass if I like if I like the faction that currently controls the territory that we're about to score, and if I like my influence over that faction. So if the blue faction is controlling this territory right now, and we're about to score that territory, and I have more blue influence than other players, then I will be happy with that. I might want that faction to score at that moment in time. And so I might pass. I might say I'm not doing anything. And if all the other players pass, plays up to 4 players, we played a 3-player game, which is different, I believe, than a 4-player game. When all players pass, you go ahead and score that territory. However, passing doesn't mean that you're out of the round. If I pass and Colin passed, I know we were with Adam. I was with Jamey, Adam, and Joe. If I pass and Adam passes, but Joe doesn't pass, then I am still in the round. I can still come back in and pass myself, or play a card again, or pass again. So it's an interesting packaging mechanism. Usually in games when you pass, you are out of the round. But in this game, you can kind of pass and hope that things stay the same. But if they don't, you can come back in and play a card, or choose to play a card again, or choose to pass again. I thought that was really clever. There's an interesting mechanism in this edition of the game, and I think with the previous version, with France. France is another kind of a fourth-party faction over here, and if 2 factions are tied at any point in time when a territory scores, France instead comes in and wins the battle. And France creates this alternate win condition at the end of the game where instead of having a bunch of influence in one faction, France has, they want you to have equal numbers of influence of all the other factions. So it's this interesting twist. The game end is usually determined by the player, by one faction having more control of all the different territories on the board, and not having those ties take into effect, and the player with the most influence wins the game at that point. But there's a secondary win condition if France has had a bunch of influence on the game, if these ties happen throughout the game. 2 other mechanisms that I think are really clever. I'll try to go over these quickly. One is that on your turn, if you do play a card, you always pick up a cube from the board, or pick up a token from the board, a cube. And the cube are these influence tokens that I've been talking about. This is really, really cool because it means that, like I said, the cubes are influence. So it means that I'm typically trying to get cubes for the faction that I think will win this game. However, I can try to pick up a cube that is for that faction. However, if I pick up a cube off the board, I am reducing that faction's influence or power or strength on the board itself. So there's this really nice push and pull where you're trying to decide, okay, how much influence do I need of this faction to have the most of all the players, but so that they still have control of the territories that I need them to win for me to win in the first place. Really, really cool push and pull. Last, though, I will end with my favorite mechanism in the game, and that is the card system. It ties into the passing that I mentioned earlier. But basically, as I said, you have these 8 cards to play during the game, and you can only play each card once. Once you play that card, you are done playing that card for the entire game. So essentially, you have 8 actions to take in the entire game. That's why passing is so important. It's an 8-round game, and so you need to hold back some of these cards for crucial rounds, for the right moment, and pass when it's not the right moment. But I love that at the beginning of the game, without any randomness at all, you know all of your actions for that game, and you just have to decide when the exact right moment is to play them. It's a really, really cool action selection system. I love how it's outlined on cards. It's just brilliant. The idea that you have one of these actions to take the entire game and you're waiting for the right moment. Awesome. I would love to see that in other games because it is such a brilliant system. It really got my brain turning with that mechanism. So if you can think of any other games that use this mechanism, I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts about other games that do this thing where there's a core win condition, but if a certain board state changes or might change that win condition to something else, I think that's really cool too. And this idea of always picking up influence off the board, therefore decreasing your chances of that influence having a positive impact on the game, but it might help you as well. Just really, really cool game. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the King of Siam, the King is Dead Second Edition, or even the First Edition if you want to talk about any of the different versions. Those are my thoughts. I look forward to hearing your thoughts in the comments as well. Thanks.